another episode of Musings with Yoyo. I am excited. I'm happy to have my guest today, Mwango. Mwango, I don't think I've ever said your last name, Moragia?
Yeah, Moragia. You said it
Moragia.
right.
Hey. Yeah. So
say it with a soft G, but you got it right.
they say what did they say?
Moragia. They usually think the G is quite.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, Moragia. Okay, I got it. Very excited to have you on here. We haven't touched base. I mean, we've messaged each other on Instagram, but we haven't done a touch base in a while. So I'm interested in hearing what's going on with you and all of that. Before we get started, how are you doing? How's your day, your week, all that?
My week has been busy. Yeah, it's only the beginning of the week, but it's been hectic, but it's been pretty good. Today is one of the busier days, but it's always nice to end it with basically a catch-up call, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, a catch-up. Yeah. And so how do we know each other?
We actually know each other. I don't actually know when we first met.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't think I do either.
Yeah, it was probably at an AI event, but Yoyo and I know each other through university. We went to the same undergrad and basically had the same friend group during school. And it's funny because whenever I think about when we first met is, remember, I don't know if I can say this, but when...
Oh God.
No, it's not bad. But since I'm not in Canada anymore, I guess I can. Is when I wanted to go out clubbing. Do you remember this story?
Oh yeah, I remember. You wanted to go out clubbing, and you wanted to go out clubbing. You weren't of legal age yet.
I was not.
Yeah. So you were like, yo, what are you doing tonight? I was like, oh, I'm not going out. You're like, so. We're in Vancouver. Everybody thinks Black people all look the same, and so yeah, let's use my ID.
And the most ridiculous thing about that whole situation was that obviously Yoyo's really tall and your height was listed on the ID. Yeah. 6'1".
I'm 6 feet, yeah.
Yeah, I am not. So it was having to find heels or these ridiculously high wedges so that when I get to the bouncer, he just thinks that I'm you because I'm not 6 foot.
Yeah.
But it was a good time. I don't know where we went that night. It was, what was the name of that club where all the Black people used to go that got shut down?
On Thursday nights?
Yeah.
Joe Rich?
No, it wasn't Joe Rich. It was the other one.
O-Bar?
O-Bar.
Gotcha. I still remember. I was thinking Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Which one?
Yeah, it was O-Bar. We had a good time. We had a really good time. Yeah. So that's how I know Yoyo, through school and many other things. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so if I remember, so you started in 2010.
Yeah. No, 2011 actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I started in 2011. So I don't know if you were in third year at that time.
I was in, I guess technically that would have been my fourth year. So I transferred to UBC.
Yes.
Yeah. So Rouvier, my youngest brother, he started his first year in 2010, but we all transferred and started at UBC in 2010. So 2011 would have been my fourth year of university, my 3.5 year if you consider the fact that transfer credits are a scam, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but it worked out though.
Yeah, it did. Okay, and then, so you were done at UBC. Mm-hmm. And then did you stay in Vancouver? How long did you stay in Vancouver after? What did you get up to after?
So I stayed in Vancouver for a little bit, just I guess it just made sense. I just wanted to, first of all, what was interesting was I moved off campus the year I graduated, and it felt like I was in a new city.
Mm-hmm.
I lived on campus all 4 years, and then I moved to East Van, and I was having to travel to places that I'd never had been before because campus is such a little village. When you leave, you have to be leaving to go somewhere.
Yeah.
At least for me, I wasn't really going past downtown. Downtown was the end of road unless it was summertime and we're going to Richmond or
Yeah.
we're going to SFU, but like I was not really, you know what I mean? And when I was in school, I was working on campus. So I really did not have to leave that much or travel in like all 4 years. So when I moved out, I think when I graduated and like was working, was when I really got to experience a different side of Vancouver. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And really become acquainted with the city. And so yeah, I worked for like a year and stuff like that. You know, like it was a good job. I enjoyed it with like an NGO, and
mm-hmm.
really learned a lot. But I also learned that like that space with which I was working wasn't necessarily where I wanted to be in life. And because I did a degree in political science, I think I wanted to get a more professional degree. And so I was
Mm,
like, you know, working and then also really wanted to travel as well. Um, and so I was just like, you know, I'm just going to apply to a bunch of different programs
yeah.
and just see. And my parents were like, you know, I was telling them to the schools I was applying to, and they were like, why won't you apply to a school in Canada? Stay in Canada, you know? And I was just like, and my dad is like, you know, if I was you, I would like, you know, move to like Saskatchewan or something. And like, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to moving to like rural
Hmm.
areas. I was like, Daddy, I'm tired and I just want to see the world. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I ended up getting into this 2-year, 2-degree program with London School of Economics and the University of Cape Town. And so literally,
Okay.
I got my acceptance in April and I was supposed to leave
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver in August. And
Wow. Oh, I remember we grabbed drinks just before you left, right? After Caribbean days.
yes. And so
Mm,
what ended up happening was like I didn't expect to get in, number one. And it was just like I think I had lived in Canada from 2010, and at this point it was 2017. So it was
mm-hmm.
7 years, and I had a whole life. I had a
Yeah.
whole apartment. I just had to basically like pack everything up into a couple of suitcases and throw so much, well, not throw, but give away so much and move to London. And it was just like crazy. Like I was
Yeah.
just like, and when I got to London, I was like, I don't know if you've ever been to like London. Like
I have, yeah.
London and Vancouver are just, and I wasn't expecting it. Like I was driving the driver, the cab driver who collected me at the airport was taking me to my accommodation, and I was looking through, and I was just like, this is London, like
What do you mean by
this.
that? What do you mean by that? Like if you had to compare them, what's the comparison? Because I've been
No,
to London a lot when I lived in Holland. So again, like European Holland is nothing like London, but
uh,
neither is Spain. So they're
yeah,
all quite
yeah,
different. Yeah.
yeah.
So I haven't been compared to like I haven't gone to London from Vancouver. So what would you say
Yeah.
is
So what
most
I'll start
surprising?
by saying is Vancouver is stunning. Like it's a stunning city.
Girl. I'm really realizing now that I'm in Toronto, I'm like, man, Toronto's like, I mean, y'all have like some grass, whatever, but it's not like Vancouver grass. Yeah.
It's not. It's just no, it's not. Like Vancouver is stunning, and you don't realize. Like I didn't realize how stunning it was because I literally spent majority of my life in Canada, and I would say my adult life
Mm,
in Vancouver. So Vancouver is very like it's got stunning nature, beautiful mountains, beautiful like hiking trails, everything. But at the same time, it's also you know, by the ocean as well, right?
yeah.
So like you also get like water features, a lot of water features, and then it's also just a very modern city. So you get
It's so
and
new.
clean, and you know it's got that like West Coast vibe that it's like it's just, you know what I mean, just like a nice place to be. You know, you
Yeah.
just feel the space, it's clean, everyone is relaxed. Then you
Hmm.
come to London, everything is small, you know what I mean? And then on top of that, because obviously it's like Europe and they're really big on history and historical artifacts, they preserve a lot of really old buildings from back in the day. So it's like,
Colonialism.
yeah, aesthetically, she's absolutely right. Aesthetically, you're just like, okay, like, you know, there has to be, like, in my head, I was like, this country colonized half the world. There has to be a little bit more going on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Um, I was just so underwhelmed. And to be honest, like when I got to my place, I was just like, I literally just got to my place. I had my suitcases and I burst out crying. Like
Oh.
I was like crying. And
Oh.
no, it was bad because because I was just like, what have I done? You know, I had a really great apartment. I had saved up for
Mm,
furniture. I had furnished it. I was working, and now I've moved into like this place that everything is so small. The city just looks
mm,
so weird. I made a terrible mistake. You know what I mean?
mm.
Um, and then it's funny because I was meeting one of our friends. I was meeting Moses
Okay.
afterwards because he had also just gotten into LBS. And so he was really helping me out with like my Oyster card for like transport and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just helped the day after rather, like to see a familiar face, you know what I
Right.
mean? So yeah, I guess that was London, and I lived there for a year, and it was great. I absolutely ended up loving it. London is
Yeah.
then obviously the second leg of my program was moving to Cape Town.
Right. I
Uh,
didn't realize that's why you moved to Cape Town. I thought you were just like, hey, let me try South Africa for a year.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah. I mean, yes and no, because the thing with the program is you could pick one of three places. And so you could either do your second year at USC and in
Mm-hmm.
the US, or you could do it in University of Fudan in Shanghai.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I was just like, you know, I've done the North American thing. I'm, you know, I don't think I would really want to, at least not now, but maybe in
Mm-hmm.
future, like live in Shanghai. But I'm really curious about Cape Town, so I was like, oh yeah, I want to do the Cape Town program. And so yeah, I ended up finishing off my degree, and literally within the space of 3 weeks, packing up again,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
moved to Cape Town. And Cape Town, like landing in Cape Town was a much more different experience than landing in London, because Cape Town reminded me a lot of Vancouver in terms of that.
Mm.
You know, I don't know if you've ever been, but
I've
it's got all
never.
stunning place, stunning city. Um, it's just got like the earthy, you know, it's like also by the water as well. But then
Right.
it's also like the cityscape is also stunning, you know what I mean? Like when you're
Mm-hmm.
driving along the highway from the airport, it's just great views. But then what you quickly come to realize about Cape Town is there's a lot of like racial segregation
Right.
that very apparent. And
I've
you
heard
know,
that.
yeah. So that was also a very interesting aspect of living there and
Mm.
remembering that we're still within the continent. So I
Mm.
guess that's a little bit about my
Yeah.
movements.
Yeah. How did now that you talk about the racial like segregation, how did that play out for you, knowing that you were in school there? So there's like a level of privilege there, but you're also Black.
Mm. Um, it was really like I know I use the word interesting a lot, but it's like the thing is with that is like there's quite a couple of layers to it, and I had to learn this quite early on because in the same South Africa and Kenya have similarities in that we're both settler colonies. So, but there's just a difference with Kenya is that we didn't necessarily go through apartheid, but uh,
Mm.
we still have those. We still have communities like white settler communities that are quote unquote, I guess, indigenous to the space that would consider themselves either South African or Kenyan. And
Mm.
so with that also comes, you know, complexities of white privilege and how whiteness just generally plays in the space. So it was weird because it's like, number one, I wasn't South African, and
Mm.
didn't necessarily have that experience of apartheid, but I had that experience of being a minority. But on top of that, you're also an international student, and like you said, that also
Yeah.
comes with a certain privilege. So it was just like for me, a lot of the time it was just knowing where you fit into this space, because you would still experience racism in some ways, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time you would also have to understand where your place was when you would talk to, I guess, local South Africans, and understanding like their experience with how apartheid and post apartheid,
Yeah.
affected them. So it South Africa was, I loved living there. Like I miss it every day. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like, it was such a huge growth curve in terms of just like, just life and things, and how the continent is, and things that I didn't realize growing up. And I think it was a very necessary, it was very necessary for me to spend time in SA before coming back home. I
Mm.
but it was, Cape Town, I lived the best life. Like it was
Okay. Let's say I probably saw you post the most when you were in Cape Town. I was like, okay, Mwango's living a whole different kind of life, because I was like, you didn't really get that kind of energy in Vancouver, so Cape
did
Town's doing
not.
something for you.
You didn't. Yeah, it was great because the weather is also like, weather permitting. They have winter, but like, like the weather is, it just weather decides a lot of what you
Mm-hmm.
can do. And also because you're also in a master's program, which you kind of have time to, everything is kind of on your own time. You can also just live a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So it was a good time. Worked there for a bit, so it was fun. It was really fun.
Yeah, yeah. And now you're in Nairobi. But before we even get to like your Nairobi experience and like being back home, first of all, I told you I moved. Did I just say move? I told you I visited Nairobi last year, right?
You did. You did.
Yeah. And if anybody right now, the video, like I have these little three bang things, is making me look like I got like I have a five head. So apparently like that's like the Kenyan way or something, but everybody thought I was Kenyan.
Yeah.
And I went in, I want to say it was in June. I went in June. So that was winter. And
Yeah.
again, this is like an assumption I had, because like Nigeria doesn't really get winter. We get rainy and dry season. So for
Yeah.
me, I was like, oh, they said winter is probably going to be like what Nigerians think is cold. I got there and I was like, hold on, I actually am cold out here. Like, what's going on? I was not prepared for this. Luckily, I had like layers of stuff, but
Yeah.
everybody thought I was Kenyan. I'm 6 feet tall, like you said. I have
Yeah.
the like five head going on, so people kept speaking to me in
Very
Swahili.
slim.
Slim, yeah, yeah. Like I don't even, yeah, sure, slim. A lot of people
Yeah.
ask me if I'm a long distance runner, but that's like those people who are out here and being like, oh yes, you're slim and black. You must be a long distance runner because everybody in Kenya can run for a long time. And I was like, joke's on you because I can't run for a long time. I don't even run for the bus. Okay.
Yeah. That's a
Um,
baby. Uh-huh.
yeah, but that was like Kenya was great. So before we even go into like
Yeah.
Nairobi and your experience moving back to Nairobi, I just wanted to shout that out. That's where I kissed the giraffe. I didn't kiss her, I fed her.
You
Everybody
should
keeps
have,
thinking,
that's like,
kiss. I fed her with my mouth. Like she took the food from my mouth. Kelly,
Okay.
that's her name.
Yes, Kelly is actually, I think, I don't know if Kelly is the aggressive one. There's
Kelly is the
one,
aggressive one.
yeah.
Wait, Kelly, and then there's another one. See, this is how much I bonded with these giraffes. There's Kelly, there's the man giraffe. I think there's
Yeah,
only one man giraffe there.
yeah,
Did I just call
yeah.
him a man giraffe? Male
That's
giraffe?
fine. Yeah. I think he's the no. There's. I think there's quite a couple. I've only been a couple of times, and honestly, the only times I go is when I have friends in town. Uh,
Mm.
and it was funny because I took another Nigerian friend of mine over there when he was in town, and he was so fascinated. I actually didn't realize that because I don't know if I told you I spent some time in Nigeria and Accra last year.
I know that because I messaged you saying that because like Will's family is from Ghana. So I was like, yo, I want to try to visit. Like tell me
Yeah,
what
yeah.
things stand out to you. Yes, I remember that.
So it was funny because for the longest time when I was growing up, I thought you guys also had animals. I thought you guys had. So I
We
was just
got
like,
we got lizards, bush meat, like that's animals in the bushes.
Lord.
We have like in the south, we have like monkeys and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not Accra. Accra, I had a friend who said that he kept a monkey as a pet. And I was like, we don't do that.
True. True.
We have
Yeah.
monkeys as pets, but we don't, because they come into the house and just, you know what I mean? They'll take things,
What?
they'll make themselves comfortable. Monkeys in Nairobi? Oh my God.
Yeah. None of
No.
that.
He was really like, when I took him to Giraffe Center and we did all of the tourist things, he was so scared of the giraffe. And I'm like, it's a giraffe. But it was nice. And it was so interesting because I've had like about 3 Nigerian friends come to visit, and they've always all commented on the food and just like
Mm.
how Nairobi is so chill, you know. And me being in Lagos, like I did everything. I was in a Danfo, I went to Balogun, like it's like Lagos is a lot, man. I love it, but it's so fast paced.
Sensory overload, man.
So
Yeah.
fast paced. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember what I was trying to say. Right. Before I even
Mhm.
talk about Kenya, what made you decide to go to UBC to begin with?
Oh, okay. So I didn't mention this, but I actually finished my last year of high school on the East Coast.
Okay.
Um, yeah, in a school called Columbia International College.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I was there like from 16 to 17. And then all my friends, like I had the best time there as well. And that's actually when I really got acquainted to West African culture. And
Mm.
a lot of like I think I was the only Kenyan in my, no, I was one of like 3 Kenyans in our year group, of like a couple of hundred Africans, and majority of
Mm.
them are Ghanaian or Nigerian.
Okay.
And yeah, so a lot of them were staying on the East Coast. Majority of them went to University of Toronto, others Waterloo. But for me, I got into like U of T, and I can't remember, and I got into McMaster as well in Hamilton. But I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to do something different, which is
Okay.
just how it's always been.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know anything about UBC. I just have an uncle that lives out there, but it looks
True.
good. And I didn't even know what I wanted to study, so you couldn't even, it wasn't even about a course or whatever. I just said, I want to go to Vancouver. So I left, and the same thing happened again that happened in London. I found
Oh,
myself in Vancouver, and I was like, oh, all my friends are like living in the same city. They are like going from dorm to dorm, and here I am. I took myself to
no one sent
I
you.
right, nobody really sent me. And yeah, no, but it was, at first I really, like my first year, I really wasn't really feeling like UBC. There was just a lot. And I think because I went to an international high school, I wasn't, it was the first time that I really had to try to make friends outside of my culture, because the international school we went to was it had a lot of Africans, so I was in my comfort zone. But like,
Mm-hmm.
it was difficult dealing and with microaggressions in class, and also just dealing with being the Black African friend, having an accent. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
was the first time being othered, and I don't think I understood what was going on, you
Yeah.
know. So it was just like you're going to lecture, and sitting next to someone, you're thinking you're making a friend. Oh, you are making a friend, but then it's like they kind of look at you as like, oh, you're African, like, do you grew up in Africa, like, are you like, how did you get here? And them expecting,
Yeah. I swam.
right. And then so it was just like I wasn't sure how to deal with all of that. And yeah, so my first year wasn't the best,
Mm-hmm.
and I really considered moving to the East Coast. But like when I started just becoming more involved on campus, and also when I started working, is when I just started enjoying school. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and never regretted. Like when I was graduating, I was like, I never regretted coming to Vancouver, and I would
Mm-hmm.
still pick Vancouver again.
Yeah.
If I was picking if I was back in high school. So yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
why I came or went.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, my coming to UBC experience was more like I was paying international studies in the US, and then I was like, I'm permanent resident in Canada. 28,000 or 5,000, which we
Yeah.
actually want to spend per year, and that's why I transferred.
Mhm.
But same thing, I got here and I was like, where the hell? Because again, 6 feet tall black person in Vancouver. So I was like, where am I? And why is everybody and their auntie staring at me? And this is like yo-yo. Like I didn't. Now I'm a lot like calmer, but when I first moved there, I was like, I was ready to fight anybody who was staring at me, like especially because I hate it. Like I just didn't want to be there. So every time I was like, what? Pull up! Like why are you staring at me? What's up? I had to adjust real quick.
Right?
But yes, and then now every time I think about it, because I just moved to Toronto, and I was like, I loved being in Vancouver. I was there for 10 years, and I'm like, I'm so glad I chose Vancouver.
Yeah.
Because once you adjust to it and you learn to love the city will love your ass right back.
Honestly, and you just miss little things. Like the other day, I made like crepes from that were inspired by like Cafe Crepe on Granville. And
Oh, you know they closed?
what?
COVID did it.
Ah,
I
cool.
know.
That's so like permanently.
At least the one on Granville, the post going out one, like where everybody get crepes after going out.
Yeah, but that was the one that was making business because the one in
Yeah.
Broward, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Please
like
don't
that.
quote me. I might be making things up, but I'm pretty sure that's the one they closed.
Okay, that's really sad. Oh, shame. But
Yeah.
I guess it's part of the memories. But yeah, you just miss certain things, like where you would get groceries.
Mhm.
Like yeah, you like Vancouver is and was a beautiful place. But I
Mhm.
think I don't know if you would say this now for yourself, but you feel like you experienced all that you needed to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And would you consider moving back, or are you just like I want to
No, I don't think I would move back. I think like I got what I should have gotten from Vancouver.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
how I felt when I was leaving. I was
Hmm.
like, you know what? Like I'm in a space where I just want to, yeah, be
Yeah.
I miss it and would come and
Hmm.
visit. I'm just like the world.
There's so much more. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But speaking of that, like, why did you decide to go back to Kenya instead of staying in like Cape Town? Why did you decide to go back home?
So a big push factor actually is just I mean with is immigration. So it's really
Mm.
hard to number one get a work permit for a South African work permit is
Yeah,
in
I've heard that.
yeah, no. And I've had friends who have wanted to work because it makes sense because I guess they're also just protecting the workers in their country. I don't want to misquote or give misinformation, but it's
Hmm.
mostly I think one of the difficult parts is the country has to prove that no other person in the country can do this work.
Right.
Um, so yeah, but to be fair, I didn't see myself living and working in South Africa.
Okay.
I think I was just curious about coming home. I hadn't lived here as an adult since I was 16. It was mostly
Mm.
like a holiday space. You come in for 1 month. You know, I didn't grow up in Nairobi, so you go to where your parents are. You know what I mean? You
Mm.
hi to your grandmother. You enjoy the weather. You enjoy food. Come back to Nairobi. Go to the airport. You're back in
Yeah.
London. You're back in South Africa. You're back in Canada.
Yeah.
So I think I just wanted to come back and just like, you know, like really feel out the space. And it's interesting because it's like Nairobi is it's so dynamic, but it's also changed in so many ways that I didn't
Mm.
anticipate, you know, because what you remember is the Nairobi you knew when you were growing up. And even
Right.
when you were growing up, you weren't like, I didn't go to school in Nairobi. I didn't live in Nairobi. So it's like,
Hmm.
you're hanging around people and they're like, you know, Dennis Pritt, Wayaki, Kileleta, and you're just like, hold on a minute. You know what I mean? I didn't grow up here. And even when I come back, I'm not usually here. I prefer to be with my parents because that's the only reason I'm coming home is to see family, right?
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's been interesting, but like I'm sure like you can say this because you were here. It's a very I don't like the word cosmopolitan, but it's like it's a space where you'll just meet so many people. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Much
Hmm.
like
I
Cape
would live in
Town.
Kenya after my like 1 week there.
It's gorgeous, right? And
Yeah.
there's just so much going on. You know, the weather is great. There's so many international companies here, and then on top of that, it's
Hmm.
business opportunities as well. And it's like I think coming back has allowed me to dream in a way that I wouldn't have otherwise had I been in South Africa or had I been in Canada.
I have a follow-up to that question of like, because you mentioned being of the space. So like in Canada, didn't really feel like home. Like you were making home, but it's not home per se.
Mm-hmm.
South Africa, same thing, Cape Town, London. But
Yeah.
did you have any fear, or what was your biggest fear going back home?
I think it's interesting because it's like it's sad the way um it's viewed. And I guess that's also just like the neo-colonialness of it all is like sometimes when people go back home after living in the West or in developing countries, it's usually considered like what are you doing here? You know what I mean?
Mm,
It's been interesting because sometimes I'll you know, hear from people or see people or run into people
yeah.
pre-COVID, of course. And they're like, why are you here? Like, I thought you were
Mm,
in Canada. And I'm just like, first of all, like, it's so interesting because it's like, number one, Canada, the Canadas, the Londons, the Americas, it's like telling people that sometimes it's not all they're cracked up to be. Uh,
mm-hmm.
is very interesting, but it's also just like sad because it's just like, you know, it's sad because it's just like there's also value in this space, you know what I mean? There's also things to be done and things to be enjoyed and life to be lived in such spaces. And it's been interesting because being home has made me want to like live in different African countries. um,
Yeah.
like I'm just like, you know what? Like I mean it's great being home, but I'm just like, maybe I want to be in Senegal for a bit.
Mm.
Maybe I want to be in I definitely want to be in Lagos for a bit. Like
Ah!
and you know what I mean? I want, and with COVID, like sometimes there's that possibility, particularly if you're working with an international company. It's like
Mhm.
everyone's working online. So it's like, you know, maybe I'll be able to like move somewhere and work somewhere else. So it's like, yeah, it's just like coming home and being in this space has definitely like opened me up to the potential of just like having a very fruitful life and, yeah, having a very fruitful life and experiencing so much of different African cultures that I didn't think
Mm,
or think that I would want to experience, you know?
And how was it adjusting? Because uh, I agree. When I went to Kenya, because I've always wanted to visit other
Yeah.
African countries. So aside from like living in Nigeria for the time that I did, and I was born in Nigeria, I hadn't been to any other African country. Like it shames me to say that. My dad was born in Ghana, and like
Yeah.
I did Euro. I've been to many European countries. I've been to many, I mean, North America has two countries. I've been to both North American countries.
Yeah.
And uh, like I can't say that I've been to other African countries. So whenever people ask like, what other country have you been to? I'm like, Nigeria, that's it. So like once I got to Kenya, I was like, I need to see other places.
Yeah. Yeah.
But was there an adjustment? Because like as you said, you weren't really brought up in Nairobi. So what was the adjustment coming back now that you had like left when you were 16?
Yeah.
What was the adjustment to like, was it what you expected? Did anything surprise you positively or negatively? And how did you adjust back?
Okay. So maybe I'll start by answering
Yeah, that was like 50 questions. My bad, girl. That's how I talk.
maybe I'll start by answering, I guess, like the positive adjustments. So things that I didn't expect to encounter, and I was like, oh,
Mhm.
okay. So number one was like weather. I know that sounds so like obvious or like it kind of
Mhm.
like you know where you grew up, so it's like why is weather? But it's interesting because it's like in South Africa we had a winter, and there was a time I was wearing my Canadian winter clothes, and
Get out of
you
here,
didn't go out. I'm not even kidding. It's cold.
bruh. Bruh.
There was like you're wearing your winter clothes, it's really cold, it's really dark, it's really gloomy. And Nairobi can be like that sometimes and rainy, but it's like when the sun is out all the time, it's
Mhm.
like it just your mood is different. And I wasn't like
Mhm.
when you've experienced winter from the age of 20 like 16 to to 25. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? That's when you're out in the world. Like you're not just out in the world. So I was just like, wow. And you know what I quickly realized is I don't know how to dress for summer. Like like you see what I'm wearing today.
Yeah.
Neck and a coat, that is my go-to. So I was like, okay, so I'm too hot for this when I put on this, I'm too cold when I put on this, like how do I even do this, you know? um Positive adjustment, it's a bit I don't know, I guess it's also just a bit to say, but I really just was like, you know, the goodness with living in like the Canadas and the Londons and all of those places is like, it also, because they're developed countries, they also come with like a lot of conveniences sometimes. Like for example, public transport is quite efficient, and so it's just like, you know, you can just hop on the tube or hop on the SkyTrain, and it's like, you know, you're there. You don't really have to maneuver with a car or in traffic or
Yeah.
whatever. And even just like ordering stuff, you know, you're just like next day delivery, Amazon Prime, whatever. And so I was just like,
Yeah.
coming home, I have my stuff that I use, that I'm loyal to, that I've had, that I'm using from Shoppers for the last 10 years. Like Sephora, oh my God, like I have my orders from Sephora, you know, and you're just like, where am I gonna shop? You know what I mean? And I will be honest, I know it sounds so shallow to say, but that was a big, because I was just like, you have to adjust to how you live your life, things that you've been used to.
The day to
And now,
day.
exactly. And so very surprised when I came home. Stupid to say, but it was just like delivery is actually faster here than
Oh.
in a lot of places I've lived. Like for example, there's some places online, because it's also because the market is smaller in terms of like people who can afford certain things. So it's like, whereas in like Canada, a lot of people can afford to buy books from Amazon,
Yeah.
which means that the logistics of it, just it's operating at a
Right.
wider framework. But here it's like, because there's a small pool, it's like of people ordering books from such and such a shop, that also means that it can just be given to like what we call a border driver, like a guy on a motorbike, and it's
Yeah.
here in 2 hours, you know. We have mobile money, so it's like you can also just pay and your book is here in 2 hours, your workout
Wow.
here within the day, your, you know, like it's so convenient, but at the same time also just realizing that that convenience comes with a privilege as well. What else did I the health aspect, and I know where we're going in, it's just like it's easier for me and cheaper for me to be healthy here than it was in other countries.
Food
Yeah.
wise or access to like exercise?
So gyms are really expensive here.
Okay.
So in terms of, but obviously COVID, but gyms are really expensive here because usually they are located in what do you call them, in spaces that usually come with a lot of like I guess like usually like really expensive or high end areas. So it's like hotels,
Yes. Yeah.
malls. So it's gyms are and they also, that the concept of, I guess, gyms has not really existed for too long outside of like, for example, like is it called the smart gyms like in the UK, or the club 16s, like it's like so they really like price it up. You'd even be like very shocked at the price of like CrossFit here is insane.
CrossFit is expensive though.
Yeah. Oh, even in like Toronto?
Yeah, but like let me preface that by saying I'm cheap. Like I like to get to me, I'm like, my body should work out, like it shouldn't be an expensive workout to move my body.
Yeah.
So to me, anything that's like above, if I spend more than $100 a month working out or getting exercise, I think that's too expensive. CrossFit is like way more expensive than that.
Yeah. Shocking to me because I'm like, yo, that's insane. But gyms here, it's like, say for example, for 3 months, the gym that I used to go to pre-COVID was like, it was expensive. It was like probably around like $125 over 3 months, which you'd expect things to be, yeah, you'd expect, and that's a $10 joining fee as well. So it's like yeah. So you'd expect,
Let me get on that commute.
that's one of the cheaper ones as well, you know. So um but it's I think, yeah, so it's been, so that was one of the negative things that I didn't really enjoy coming back, is like, okay, also coming back and thinking the gyms would remain open all year. I'm just like, like I guess I really have to um fork out for fitness, which is important to me.
Yeah.
I guess another negative thing that uh, or adjustment, I guess, was just I don't know, like it was like, I'm trying to think of something, but there haven't been many. It's sometimes, I guess, like what do you say, like there's certain things that you have to wait on, you know what I mean, or things that you have to, yes, things that you have to adjust to culturally. So it's like coming
Mm,
back, and also just like, I would call myself, I guess, like a third culture kid, in the sense that like I spent a lot of my formative years outside of the country, but there's
yeah.
still growing up in a certain space, so you're just in between two places. And
Mm,
there's certain things that maybe I may not necessarily agree with, or that may not necessarily be things that I follow or whatever. But it's like you kind of just have to adjust, because it's like you also have to remember that you are a visitor to the space in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
because you left for a while.
I would think so. Like it's like, I think
Mm,
for me, I think particularly just like being somebody who lived in the diaspora, I think it's important when you come back to just realize that you're coming into people's space. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So sometimes people can come with all of the, I lived in this country and I've got these degrees and so I'm better. But it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, you know what I mean? That's so weird to do.
Yeah. It's
And
unfair. It's unfair to do too. Like, who am I to come and be like, I
it's
got this degree, I'm better than y'all now.
so weird to do, but it's also
Mm,
important to also just like um understand that the like where you are in the mix of things, and also to learn, as someone who's still learning Nairobi, as someone who's still learning Kenya 2020, which is so different from Kenya 2010 when I left.
yeah.
Really important for you to um, learn how to value like what people are telling you. It may sound weird to you. Like there's some things, like it's like maybe somebody will be like, Mwango,
Yeah.
it's
What's an example of the cultural things? Yeah.
uh, okay. Okay. I guess it's like I can't really pinpoint something right now,
Mm-hmm.
but say for example, um, I don't know, like it's like, say for example, you're in like a family setting,
Mm-hmm.
or a setting where you're considered a child, and then there's the next generation which are considered,
Mm,
and you're looking at things going on and you're just like, you know what, like I think there's a more efficient way to do it. I think I just need to make this clear, because we're wasting a lot of time here doing things. um, and then it's like, maybe you might express that, and then somebody will be like, um, these are just the nuances that have to happen. This is just how
yeah.
things are, and this, you should just let them happen. The end result will come, but this is just how,
How we do it.
yeah, exactly. So it's like it's taken a lot of, like, you know what I mean, like sitting and listening, and understanding how things run. Yeah, because it's also important, I guess, in when you learn the space and you learn where you sit in the space, you also, for me, I think you learn how to succeed in the space as well. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And also value what you're learning from other people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, but for the most part, there haven't been really anything negative. I've honestly loved being home.
Mm,
Yeah, it's been
yeah.
good.
And I think because you've also had the experience of like being born,
Yeah.
and maybe not in Nairobi, but being born in Kenya, so you do have some of those cultural understandings. So even listening to you, I know, for example, like Will and I getting married, and Will is Canadian. Like
Yeah.
his family's from Ghana, but Will is Canadian. So some of the like traditional things,
Yeah.
like the understanding of it, like the important, like it's harder to just navigate. And
Mm.
like you don't want to invalidate your own experience too, because you're talking about like listening and stuff like that. But your experiences are,
Yeah.
just because you are from the diaspora and you're not, you're like you're coming back in someone's space, doesn't mean your opinions
But
aren't valid.
people know that, I guess, like you can sense it. Like the other day I was in town with a friend, like the CBD, and we're just running errands, and we were driving her car, and I was just walking and stuff like that. And so, because when you're in town, you have to be very careful with where you park your car. You have to
Mm.
make sure you have a guy who you pay after to watch your side mirrors. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
CBD. So we were just running errands and stuff. And I mean, I'm Kenyan, and like
Yeah.
by all standards. And so he asked my friend in Swahili, he said, "Huyo ametoka diaspora," which basically means like, "That's is she from diaspora?" And I'm like, "Yo."
Oh. Oh, wow.
Like, wow. And even my Swahili, I speak it with an accent as well. So it's like
Mm.
at the time people can usually tell that like there is a foreignness to you,
Yeah.
um, which is fair. I understand. But
Yeah.
it is just interesting because I had not said anything.
Yes, yes. So like when I went to visit Nigeria, it's like, he ain't from here. Like they already know. I'm like, I said nothing. I said nothing.
So it's like you kind of just, and you can't fight it. You know what I mean? I think
Mm-hmm.
you realize, and I think you and I will, you realize quickly on from being people who, like, you're Nigerian, but you've also experienced so many different cultures and countries, and
Mm-hmm.
you're too much of one thing and too little of another. But
Yeah.
if you fight it, you're only fighting yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
you, there's just a certain level of acceptance, at least for me, that I've had to have in terms of just like, I understand that I have had certain experiences that, like make me not be read, I guess, as like authentically Kenyan. And if
Mm.
I have a chip on my shoulder regarding that and always trying to prove myself to people,
Right.
I'm just gonna get tired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd rather practice my Swahili, practice my Sheng, which is a whole different Nairobi dialect that I've been learning.
Mm.
Um, to just, I guess, like we said, like just like listening and learning from people, and just
Mm-hmm.
to be able to just like function and do well in the space, like I said. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very important. Yeah, like you're fighting yourself. I know, like whenever people are like you're not really Nigerian, I don't get offended by that anymore. But whenever
Yeah.
people would say that to me, I'm like, I'm sorry, my passport is green, so I still get randomly selected. And like my name is Yoyo again. I'm still Nigerian. Like just because I might not be like what you think
Yeah. Yeah.
only one way to be Nigerian is. So I used to get very offended. I'm like, I'm Nigerian. So then I try to put on the strongest Nigerian accent, and then it was even worse because they're like, who is this chick? Like, chill.
Yeah.
And so just being like, this is me. I'm
Yeah.
Nigerian, but I'm also
Yeah, yeah. Where is like I forget where you guys are from. Like the
tribally.
yeah.
Yeah, we're from the south. My dad is Isoko. Not as big. Fewer people know the Isoko tribe. Do you know the Urobo tribe?
Mm,
No? Okay, yeah. Many people like we're from the south, but like our tribe is called Isoko, and then my mom is from the Edo, which more people know.
yeah.
Benin tribe, yeah. So that's a lot of the colonizer stuff from Nigeria. In the museums, are a lot of them come from the Edo tribe.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, from the Edo Kingdom. Yeah, so
Hmm.
we're from the south, not one of the major ones. So again, that's another thing that I also navigate. Is people are like, well, if you're not Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, then
What really are you? I feel
what are you? Yeah. So I'm like,
yeah.
coming back. So for me, I've thought about going back. I don't know if you remember back when we were in UBC, we had an Africa Awareness Initiative meeting about like what is home and like who chooses to go home. And like that was like a very long meeting. Um, and for me, I've thought about going home or like moving to Ghana, for example, but like adjusting, like, is it easier to move when you have a job? Is it like, what is like finding a job like when you're not a native? So for example, I wanted to move to Nigeria. My dad's like, you might have a hard time getting a job as a Nigerian if you haven't done NYSC, which is the youth service.
Mm,
So even in that, like, do you think it's easier and adjusting to like
mm,
Nairobi because of the job
mm.
aspect or because of the education aspect, or is it because it's just because it's home?
Um, I think that's also just like, I guess, a very again, it's layered because it's like
Mm,
what a lot of people assume is like you um eh, number one, it's like Nairobi is and Kenya is also very different because it's a place that operates on on privilege,
Mm,
unfortunately. So it's like, number one, like nepotism is a currency here, you know what I mean?
mm,
Then number two, it's also just like experience, as it should be, is also something that's also highly valued. But again, you don't get that experience unless you have a foot in the door, and if you have a foot in the door, that's usually through the way of nepotism.
mm,
Um, it's as an international person coming back, I would say for a lot of people coming back, I would advise that you just really get to learn and relearn the space, because like depending on where you work. So for example, for me, who I'm more interested in like development, uh, yeah, working for NGOs and like development and such, you really need to know and understand the context. For a lot of other things, I guess, that are evergreen, depending on where you are in the world, like finance,
yeah.
um, being a doctor, it's like those things don't change, but it's like contextual things. It's really important for you to understand and have experience in the context that you're working in. So that's why I'm also saying you also can't just come in with like, I have all of this international experience, I've got
Mm,
all of these schools, because it's just like, okay, but do you understand who and where you're working
right.
with, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
um, but at the same time, even for those evergreen industries, like finance and medicine and all of that, it's like you also still do have to understand that space, you know what I mean? Because it's like, you cannot go into a meeting, say for example with investors or shareholders, and you don't understand the cultural context in which you're operating, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's so important. And I think for anybody who's thinking of coming back, you have to really take that into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah.
Okay. Um, I know that I said I would give you like I wouldn't make this too long. So like let me wrap up my last little bit of questions here. um, for two more questions. So like you had already kind of started going into advice of like someone who wants to come back home or someone who wants to move. So like I had mentioned, Will's family is from Ghana, but like he's never lived there. But like that's a place that like he definitely wants to go. I'm interested. I've always been interested in Ghana. Anybody who knows me,
Yeah.
even before meeting Will, has known that. I always say I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up marrying a Ghanaian. Like I always said it. I don't know why. I don't know why. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up with a Ghanaian. And maybe it's because I also know my dad was born there. So I'm like, I feel like there's like some kind of connection, weird connection there. So I've always wanted to move back. But I was born on the continent. I was born in Nigeria, which like is very adjacent, Ghana adjacent culturally.
Yeah.
But what advice would you give someone who wants to either move back home or like move to, you've been to Ghana, but let's use Kenya as an example. How would you suggest like they go about adjusting?
um
Survival tips with Mwango.
I think I can only say that to a certain degree, because also I came back during a pandemic. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, you moved back during a, first of all, how's the pandemic stuff been going? How y'all hanging in there?
So we have a curfew. So everybody is
Oh,
supposed
y'all.
everybody is supposed to be home in about 30. We have a 9 p.m. curfew. Uh,
Oh,
Yeah, no, I moved back during a pandemic, and we've had a curfew since March, and it's been a
damn.
7 p.m. curfew. And yeah, like from, I think it was 7 to 4 a.m., and then they shifted it not too
Wow.
long ago from 9 p.m. to, I don't know if it's still 4 or 5, but anyway, yeah, so everything shut down. At some point, they stopped serving alcohol in
True.
bars. They did the South Africa route. They, like, restaurants closed down. It's been quite hectic. It's like they've been like a lot of rules, mandatory masks, like going out
Mm,
without a mask is illegal. Um,
mm,
so I would say like my experience in moving home has and will be different to a lot of people's, considering that I came when you're not seeing people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your movement has been reduced a lot. But I would say, I guess, still being home and stuff like that, I would say that it's really important to um, outline what it is that you want to achieve in the time that you're here for. So it's like, for me, still haven't decided how long I'm going to be here,
Mm.
or if I want to move somewhere else, if I'm, you know what I mean? So it's like I still have a lot to figure out in terms of just like how long I'm here for. But at the same time, I would say that it's important to make the most of the time that you are here for, and just list things that you want to do. You want to travel, talk to a friend, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
sometimes people won't want to travel with you within the country. So it's like, just like go out and do things by yourself and stuff like that. Learn the city. I would also say, just like, it's so important to also just establish a network beforehand. You know what I mean? Even that means like
Hmm.
reaching out to people, like reaching out to old friends and stuff like that. Yeah, and also just like, what you're gonna ask
Oh
a
no, I was gonna say,
question.
what's like a like networking is huge in like any context. It's just called different things in different places. But
Yeah.
let's say, for example, you don't have a network. Like, where would you even suggest establishing a network?
I mean, I think like it's a bit cliche to say, but I think like LinkedIn is great.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That's, I guess, like a professional network, just reaching out to people. I also think socials work really well. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm gonna reference vloggers before the world shut down.
Yeah.
Um, like, you would, like, say for example, a friend of mine who came to visit, and she's Nigerian. She reached out to a couple of Kenyan vloggers here, to kind of show her what she wanted to do, like
Oh
to what
wow.
she do and stuff like that. And when she came, she met up with them, and I was just like, first of all,
Okay.
who are you? I country, and I don't know why you know all these people. But I would just say, like, you can also, like, people are quite kind on social media, and nowadays, because, like, it's relatively safe one, because you're seeing someone's whole life online. You can
Mm.
reach out to people. Most people are quite friendly, just ask them if they want to meet for coffee and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I've done that a couple of times with people who, I guess, share that experience with me, in terms of just like, either they've just moved back, or they are from a different country and have just moved to Kenya.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and we just maybe have like a virtual coffee or something, and it's been good. You learn a lot, and it expands uh, your like I said, your network. And I think for me, coming back, I was also just like, I really want to experience Nairobi in the same way that I wanted to go to London or go to like the West Coast. Like, I really just like stepping outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So for me, it's also just like being outside of the group that I usually or would usually hang out with. I think it's important for you to push that boundary a bit, because there's so much of the country you don't see or don't learn if you
Hmm.
don't do so. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Okay. All right. So establish networks.
Mm.
Reach out to bloggers. Do the things. Yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's actually like that's obviously makes sense. You have to make a community when you go to somewhere new, and
Yeah.
best way to do that. Okay, where are you excited to go next? Once the world opens up and we're allowed to start going places.
So my graduations were postponed. So that's definitely something I want to do next year.
Mm.
I definitely still I want to visit Senegal. I don't know why I'm so fixated on Senegal, but
Yeah.
I want to go for a bit and just see the beaches. I'm kind of sad that it's COVID, but like that's definitely on my to-do list after.
Okay.
Maybe
Oh,
Tanzania also too.
so
Yeah.
many places. I want to do a whole trip. A whole trip. Yeah,
Okay.
save that money up, huh?
Right?
Yeah, well, this has been good. Like, it's been good hearing your experience moving around. I didn't know your experience like in London when you first got there, and all of that. So it's been really cool and hearing your perspective on how you moved and like your experience in the different places. I love the idea of living in different places. So I mean, I just got to Toronto, but like I know that this is not where it ends.
Mm-hmm.
So took some tips here from you. As I told you, I usually end off each episode with a guest asking me a question. Do you have any question for me?
I do. What are you most excited about living in Toronto?
Ooh. What am I most excited about living in Toronto? So same thing as you. I moved in the middle of a pandemic. Masks are mandatory inside. So that's been like in Vancouver, it was your own decision. I think it's becoming mandatory in Vancouver as well. So I visited Toronto previously to moving this time around. So I've seen it be faster paced. And right now it's a little bit slower paced. So that's been weird. It's been kind of weird. But then the good thing is like Will is here. I'm excited about like seeing what our life looks like together once we're like all settled and all of that. But I'm excited I'm excited for what like my community will look like here. Because for me, like I like beautiful places. So Vancouver is gorgeous, but I can visit gorgeous places if I don't think like I have a good enough community, strong enough like people to rely. I'm a people person, so I can be in the most beautiful place, and if I don't feel like I have the right community, then I'll struggle. So I mean, I lived in Norman, Oklahoma. There's really not much going on there apart from the university, but I had such great friends. I had like really good like people around. So I'm excited and I'm looking forward to what that looks like as it grows over time, as like COVID restrictions start to go down a little bit. That's what I'm excited for. And then just being here with Will, which has already kind of started, but like I'm excited for what that looks like going forward.
Yeah, no, you'll be absolutely fine. If there's one thing that like you're amazing at is like number one, making friends. I always used to look at Yoyo is friends with just friends with everybody, and just knows how to hold a conversation and just make people feel welcome. So I'm sure it's not gonna be an issue. And you're there with like your fiance. It's like it's so exciting. Yeah, so
I know.
You'll love it.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. What I'm not looking forward to is the cold. I was looking at the weather earlier in February, that what they had here, like snow, like it was like snow all the time, like -20. I'm like, why is this life? And why is this a life that I decided to move to? So we'll see how excited. Degrees, -20. It's not often. It doesn't happen often. But like low key, I kind of hope we're still staying inside when it gets really cold, because like, if I don't have to be out, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Oh, well, good luck with that. I may or may not do it because, as you know, I still have family in Toronto.
Yeah.
And Waterloo, and my brother just started in Ottawa, so I'll be back. Yeah.
Come visit. If you do, please hit me up.
I will do. Thanks for having me on, Yoyo.
Thank you. I had a good time having you on. Thank you. Appreciate ya. I know we had all the Wi-Fi issues, but I appreciate you.